What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and today we're going to be checking out my brand new TV that I think hands down is the best option for gaming. Behind me is the LG C1 77-inch OLED 4K TV. And man, PC gaming, next-gen console gaming, this thing handles it all with ease. So if you want to check it out, we'll go over it for you guys today. I'm going to tell you pretty much, my time with it, my experience with it in terms of gaming. So it's not going to be a full in-depth review of every single aspect of the TV. Think of this as a review for gamers. So first up, just checking it out. Yes, at 77 inches, this thing is massive. The C1 definitely is gonna take up a pretty good portion on your wall if you choose to wall mount it like I did, but that'll of course give it that nice, beautiful, seamless look when you do have it mounted. And from the side, this thing is super thin. Like where the screen is, it's literally thinner than my iPhone. And that is just crazy to think about. Yes, most of the computing and the power is really going on in the bottom portion of the display where it does come out a bit. That's where all your connections are and stuff. But just the screen itself, super thin. Now taking a look on the backside, like I said, the lower portion is where all your inputs are gonna be. You have things for like hooking up cables, some audio ports, but what's more important is the fact that you have 4 HDMI ports. They are HDMI 2.1, each fully capable of 4K, 120 Hz. You also have 3 USB ports. So since I got it in with my time gaming with it, like I said, as a review for gamers, we're gonna talk about how I was pretty much gaming with it with the new PS5, the Series X, and a gaming PC. So with this, I have all 3 of them set up right underneath the TV with my entertainment console. And I'd say probably around 3 weeks I went and tested, I guess I could say, one each for each system, just kind of go through. And that was kind of like my testing period for this. So again, the next gen consoles and a current gen PC, if you will, doesn't really make much sense with all the, current graphics cards coming out constantly. But in here, I have a 2080 Ti and an i9 10900K CPU. So again, in terms of a 4K TV, the systems here and the PC, they'll all go hand in hand. So first up, this is an OLED TV, like I said, but the pixels are self-lighting. What that means is each pixel turns on and off depending on what's going on in your display. So it doesn't darken, the pixels individually turn on and off. And I'll show you a side-by-side picture here. On the left side, I literally turned the TV off, and the right side is showing you, a test. I pulled up on YouTube just to, run through the colors, you can get an idea. And since they're self-lit, that means there's gonna be no halo. You get that literal, infinite contrast here, and you can just see side by side, the black portions of the display match identically to when the TV is turned off. It's hard to fully portray through the camera and stuff, obviously, but in person, it's just crazy to see the infinite blacks that this can represent. And you cannot get this on any other sort of TV, like LCDs or LED TVs can't do this. OLED's been around for a while, yes, but seeing this here with the self-lit pixels, definitely a pretty cool experience. And while that's great and all for, watching movies and pulling up YouTube videos, when it comes to gaming, that's just gonna give your image even more of this true-to-life representation, if you will, especially in combination with HDR, which this TV supports. So the image you're gonna be getting is just gonna look beautiful. Now, one of the main important features this TV is gonna boast is 4K, 120 Hz, 1 millisecond response time, depending on obviously what you're using to game with, right? And depending on also the HDMI source, there's different picture profiles and settings depending on what you have this hooked up to. So for example, you have, your usual picture profile options, but over HDMI, if HDR is supported, it'll automatically detect that and give you select HDR picture modes, like your vivid, standard, cinema home, regular cinema, which just makes the picture warmer, and the game optimizer. And this is where you're gonna be spending a lot of your time fine-tuning, because it's the more important setting here to, optimize your gaming experience. This is where you can go in and adjust things like the HDR picture by fine-tuning the black and white levels. You have different sound options, which we'll talk about in a minute, adjusting blue light levels, motion blur, that kind of stuff. But like a monitor, it also has different color profiles you can change up. Like the standard mode, that's stock. You have an FPS, RPG, and RTS, which is really just doing things like adding slight sharpening to some of the profiles, increasing contrast. RTS slightly lowers the contrast so you can see enemies better, more of a flatter image. But one of the more important settings comes with the input lag option, with a standard and a boost setting. So what this does is it adjusts the input lag depending on the game for standard. So some games only support 60 FPS, some support 120, so the standard's going to adjust it to the game itself, whereas boost just matches it to the highest possible frame rate of your console or your PC. And this doesn't interfere with the picture quality at all. Like, it doesn't cause tearing or anything like that with gaming. I feel like boost is kind of a bad name for it because usually on a gaming monitor, they'll have settings where you can boost response times and stuff, but sometimes that can cause ghosting, But here, it's not boosting anything, it's just matching to the frame rate of the game or the system. However, there is a really strange caveat with boost because it's only limited to just 60 hertz. So again, it's a very weird name to call it a boost setting when it's not really boosting and it's just limited to 60 hertz instead of 120. So what is it boosting? And the reason this game optimizer is such a big deal for a TV is because in the past, TVs didn't support HDMI 2.1 first off, but also the input lag and response time of the TV would output, especially with PC gaming, it really made it hard to game competitively. It was doable for casual games, sure, but there was definitely a noticeable delay. Now, another setting you might have seen when I was going through there, which again is gonna go hand in hand with PC gaming, is G-Sync and VRR. And VRR stands for variable refresh rate, and G-Sync adapts the frame rate of the game you're playing to the TV's highest possible refresh rate, so 120 hertz. This is the same G-Sync that you do see again with gaming monitors, but say your PC hooked up to this has an AMD graphics card. They also have an AMD FreeSync Premium mode as well. And having these built-in FreeSync and G-Sync modes in your TV is great because a lot of times, say you're PC gaming and it goes over the refresh rate that the TV is capable of, you would get a lot of screen cracking or blacking out a lot of times. So with this, it fully prevents that and it's turned on by default. Well, G-Sync's turned on by default. So whether you are console gaming or PC gaming, the G-Sync and VRR is what's currently going to be on. Now, one tip I want to give you if you're PC gaming, which did throw me off at first, is when you go into your display settings, at first it just gives you pretty much the HD resolution. So it has the 4K, but stock, it only shows 60 hertz. And what you have to do is scroll down, and that's where it'll give you the 4K PC options, which is kind of weird. So there you can select the 4K and then adjust it to 120 hertz. So if by default, if it's been 60 hertz, now it's where you adjust it. And then also adjusting it in game is, again, it's no different than if you were hooked up to a monitor. So you go in, either the visual settings or your graphic options, depending on what game you're playing, and here you can match it to the 120 hertz. So while PC gaming and playing things like Battlefield and stuff, again, playing on a TV in the past was always doable, but there was that slight delay that would make any sort of FPS or competitive gaming really just not fun, I was just truly blown away by how good this looks, especially blown up to the 77 inches, running 4K at 120 hertz, 1 millisecond response time. And that is just so hard to sort of visualize if you haven't seen it this big. You guys know me, I game at my monitors over here, my main setup, where it's a 34-inch ultra wides, but 77 inches at 4K is just insane. And with HDR turned on, it just made the game look so good. Battlefield looks insane as it is, but now, whew. Then obviously for the PS5 and your Series X, it's still gonna look great. The graphics aren't up to par with current gen PCs and stuff like that. When you're picking between those input lag options with standard and boost, I had it set to boost when I was gaming because a lot of sports games, Forza for example, looks gorgeous at this size. And then having it run at 120 FPS, buttery smooth. And even though a lot of games are still running at 60 FPS, again, if the game doesn't support it and you're at boost mode, it'll automatically just default back to standard, which is, a good idea on the TV's part. So that way it's still not causing any interference or tearing and stuff on your screen. Games still are, getting upgraded. I know The Last of Us just got upgraded to 60 FPS, but the fact that we have these TVs coming out, we have monitors coming out that are just getting better and better and better. The fact that we're getting, console games being upgraded to support these higher refresh rates is a good thing. So you've seen there's a lot going on with this TV, a lot of power, and there's also a lot of AI going on behind the scenes that you can choose to enable or disable, and that's all thanks to their new A9 Gen 4 processor. It's technically the A9 Gen 4 AI processor 4K, they call it, because with some of the settings, it uses this deep learning algorithm to sort of adjust to your content. So we won't go over every single thing, but AI brightness settings, this actually adjusts your picture image and what you're gaming or watching to the brightness in your room, which I thought was pretty cool. You also have something like AI Sound Pro, The AI analyzes the audio and sort of emulates like surround sound, but also separates vocals from the background audio to enhance that. Then you have the AI acoustic tuning setting, which actually uses the microphone inside the remote that it comes with to sort of gauge, the ambient noise level in the room going on, and then it will adjust your audio from there. So if you have kids yelling in the background, it's pretty hectic, it will adjust the audio levels for you. So given all the power and everything this TV is fully capable of, I think hands down for gaming, whether PC gaming, next gen gaming, even old generation gaming, this TV is the best option. Like 4K, 120 Hertz, 1 millisecond response time, HDMI 2.1, your gaming is gonna be taken to the next level. I'm not just saying that. At this size, 4K, 77 inches, it's crazy. The one con I want to bring up, and I feel like it's a common con you see with TVs, is the audio. Now, it gets very, very loud. So when I'm down here, I think I keep it at level 14, which is very low, but that's loud enough. But when you start to boost it up a bit, it doesn't sound fully full, I guess you could say. It gets loud, it sounds decent, but it's not a full audio quality. And with the AI and stuff, the emulated surround sound does sound decent, but you would definitely benefit from a pair, some sort of a speaker setup, whether it is a full 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound system that you might want to use, depending on the room you're in, stuff like that. But what's also cool is they do actually have a Bluetooth mode inside the audio settings where you can connect different Bluetooth speakers. So thought that was neat, but I would definitely recommend a soundbar with this, just to, have the audio level match the TV. Now, another thing I want to bring up that's not necessarily a con, but a thing to keep in mind if you choose to wall mount it like I did. As you saw, the display itself is super, super thin. So where all of the, the hardware, the computer and stuff inside on the bottom, that's where your base-up mount is. And that's on like the bottom third in the middle of the back. So you're gonna need a very heavy duty wall mount to be able to support a 77-inch TV like this. But also, since it's on the bottom third, if you will, at this size, it's gonna be a bit top heavy, just because natural, it's gravity. When something's mounted that close to the bottom, it's gonna start to lean. So because of the size, because of the weight, it does lean. It's not huge, but you're gonna have to, fine tune your wall mount to make it a straight angle, if you will. Or hey, maybe the tipping forward benefits you in your viewing angles, depending on where you are. But I did want to point that out, because this thing's huge. Now, speaking of viewing angles, which are fantastic, by the way, one thing you want to keep in mind, and this isn't a con, but a thing to be aware of, is the lighting going on in your room. Because the display itself, like the finish on the screen, it's glossy, it's reflective. So if you have lights like angled across from the TV, it very well may pick it up. And like I said, it's not a con because it's just a common thing with these TVs, versus if it had a sort of like a matte finish on the TV, the display would look a lot more dull, So it's kind of a trade-off. If you with the OLED, you want that beautiful image quality, the screen does have to be this glossy finish. So like I said, just keep that in mind. All right, guys, so that'll wrap it up for my review of the LG C1 77-inch 4K OLED TV. Hope you enjoyed. If you're a gamer, if you need something this crazy at this size, PC gaming, console gaming, whatever, this is hands down one of the best options out there, and it is definitely the craziest gaming TV I've ever had. So if you want to check it out, I'll put a link for you in the description down below. If you like this review, give it a big thumbs up, show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.